a candidate for the director position here at RCARS. Most of you know Tom, so I'm not going to get into a lot of detail about his background. He's a forage agronomist with UK. He's been doing that since at least 2005. And most recently, Tom's been serving as the interim director here at RCARS for the past nearly 3 months, and he's done a great job. So with that, I'll turn it over to Tom. I will say that Neva is making us another nice lunch here after the seminar, so please stick around and enjoy lunch. She's telling me that she's got a special barbecue set up for us all, so you're all welcome to join us for lunch. So with that, I will turn it over to Tom.
Thank you, Dr. Bennett. Greatly appreciate that. Josh, are we okay on our sound and everything?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, certainly a pleasure to be here. And for those of you that were here yesterday, thank you for coming back. But I must tell you that if you stayed for lunch yesterday, that we don't have these lunches every day, okay? So they're just something that's for special occasions. So don't think that we eat like this every day here at RCARS. But we're very fortunate to have Neva fix our lunch today and get us going. All right, Josh. Everybody hear me okay? Great opportunity to be here today. I thank you all for coming out. I'm both excited to be here and very humbled to be here. As you know, I've been the interim director now for a little over 2 months, going on 3 months, and it's been a great learning experience, and I really appreciate that opportunity. So we'll jump in here and talk about some things. So I thought to get started today, I'd give you a little roadmap as to where we're going to go. These are some of the topics that we're going to be touching on today in the seminar. I'll give you a little bit of background about me to start with. We'll talk a little bit about the history of RCARS. This will be repeating a lot of stuff for you all. You all already know it, but for those that are joining us on the streaming wise, maybe some information for them. I want to talk a little bit about a master plan for RCARS and some of the work that we do here. I want to touch on some of the current work that we're doing here. I want to touch on the college focus. As most of you know, the College of Agriculture, Food and Environment, and by the way, I'm going to make a disclaimer right now. It is officially titled the College of Agriculture, Food and Environment. I will probably not ever say that again in this presentation. I'll say the College of Agriculture or the college. So I'm just going to give that disclaimer right now. I want to talk about communications and how very, very important they are for RCARS, and as well as the college, and as well as the University of Kentucky. So I think that's very important. Talk about some of the outreach when we move away from RCARS, things that we can touch on. And then I say the people for last because I think people are the most important when it comes to any facility, any institution. And so I say them for last, and a conclusion that I've got. And then certainly we'll have time for questions at the end. And anytime if you have a question during the presentation, please feel free to raise your hand, and then we'll answer them for you. A little background about me. I was born and raised in Washington County, Kentucky, down around Springfield. It's very near Bardstown. Grew up on a family farm, raising cattle and hogs, corn, tobacco, alfalfa, soybeans, you name it, we did it. And just a basic family type farm. Got a degree from the University of Kentucky in production agriculture. And then for 10 years I worked in the horse industry on 2 of the largest horse farms in the Lexington area. I worked at Spendthrift Farm and Northridge Farm. At Spendthrift I managed about 3,600 acres. I had nothing to do with the day-to-day care of the horses. I just took care of the physical plant. The pastures, the fences, the lawn areas, the shrubs, the roads, the buildings, the electric, the flowers, and all like that. So we had a fantastic facility there. My first job out of college, and it probably was the worst thing that could have happened to me, because at that job, money was no object. If you wanted something, all you have to do is validate why you wanted it, and you could buy it. New pickup truck, new tractor, new piece of equipment, didn't matter. You could get whatever you wanted. So it was a great experience, but probably one I shouldn't have started out with. Because from there I went to Northridge Farm, and we had no money. We had zero money. I sent in a budget to work on our pastures. I put in a 3-year budget of $100,000. The main office sent me back a budget and they had allocated $2,000. I struck a line through the $2,000, sent it back and put a zero there saying I really don't even want to start for just $2,000. So I went from having everything I wanted to having nothing I wanted. So great insight with those two positions. For 16 years I worked with Creech Incorporated in Lexington, a hay brokerage company up there. We moved hay and straw throughout the country and overseas. My primary responsibilities were to move hay primarily from the west and the north into the Lexington area and up and down the eastern seaboard and ship it overseas. So really good background with logistics and how things move and how things travel around the country and that type of thing. Since 2005, I worked at the University of Kentucky as a forage agronomist, worked very closely with Dr. Ray Smith and Dr. David Ditch on hay, biomass, grazing, and basic forage research and extension work there. I did receive an MS from the master's degree a couple of years ago, and then since January this year, I've been the interim director of RCARS. So you can see a pretty diverse background, but a lot of good experience there. So when you're looking for a director of the RCARS facility in 2016, you want someone that's got leadership skills. I think I've got a great background with leadership. I've been the president of the American Forage and Grassland Council about 10 years ago. I have also been the treasurer of that organization. I was the president of their affiliate council association as well. A lot of work with them. I was past president of the National Forage Testing Association. And if you look on this side, you'll see a lot of terms that say forage and hay. So you can tell that that's kind of my background. Been working with the National Hay Association for many years. We're recipient of their Public Service Award, very highly regarded there. I've been very focused with Kentucky Forage and Grassland Council over these last 20-25 years, and I'm also currently the treasurer of the Forage and Grassland Foundation, which for those of you that don't know is an offshoot of the American Forage and Grassland Council and the International Grassland Congress that they held every 4 years. So we won't go into that. I can visit with any of you about any of those if you want to after the seminar. So I wanted to touch a little bit on RCARS history. As I mentioned, most of you already know this. But two gentlemen by the name of E.O. Robinson and F.W. Mulberry came down here in the early 1900s, and they saw opportunity. Lots of opportunity. They saw this to be a place where they could harvest a lot of timber, ship it throughout the country, a lot of building going on, and so they set up camp here, right here was camp. And at one time this was the largest lumber mill in the world. And but they came in and they were businessmen. They wanted to make money, and they made money. But in doing so, they pretty much removed everything that you could see around. And so they were forward thinking. They said, how can we make this better? And they turned it over actually to the University of Kentucky in 1925. Now, the background of that, to get it to UK actually started before 1925, but that's when it officially became part of the university. I think about this, and I think about all the hard work that went into what they did here, and all the lumber they harvested, and all the lumber that they produced in this bottom that we have here. I think of the blood, sweat, and tears that went into that because, as you know, they didn't have the equipment that we've got nowadays in terms of handling trees and in saw or lumber mills and those kind of things. So it's quite a story. I've got a publication here. If any of you ever want to see it, you're welcome to look at it. But it's very fascinating to read through this about the history of RCARS. So, moving on, what is RCARS? I was meeting with the committee this morning, and we were kind of talking about this, and in my opinion, and only in my opinion, it is an interdisciplinary facility envisioned to lift the economic and the social resources of Eastern Kentucky. And you can see there a lot of the things that are going on, a lot of the departments within the college that are involved here. But one of the main things is that we are the regional presence of the College of Agriculture, Food and Environment, and we're also the regional presence of the whole University of Kentucky. So to me, that brings prominence and brings importance, and it brings a real sense of purpose for what we have to do here. We have about 70 acres here on the site where you are now, across the road. But when we look at the Robinson Forest, we have 15,000 acres plus. And so that's a tremendous asset for us to have at RCARS. And we have another facility called the Stewart Farm that we mentioned a little bit. But I won't read through all of those, but suffice it to say we have a tremendous amount of stuff going on here. I think we need to continue with that. We'll talk about it more in the future, but just a lot of things going on here at the facility right now. So where is our scope of outreach? We're situated right here in Breathitt County, just south of Jackson, Quicksand, Kentucky. Put a little map together. And the yellow circle there, that's about an hour's distance from here. So you can be here fairly quickly from those locations. I know it's hard for y'all to see out there, but the blue circle is a 2-hour radius. And if you look at that blue circle right there, that pretty much encompasses all of eastern Kentucky. And when I think of eastern Kentucky, I think of most everything east of I-75. And so if you look in that blue circle, we can touch all those people. Now, the further out you go, obviously, the less our outreach will be. But we have a real presence, and we need to have a real presence in those areas right there. So what's our master plan? The college just did this. Dr. Nancy Cox, the dean of the college, worked with a lot of folks. Dr. Ditch was on that committee to try to put together a plan for the college. And where is the college going in the next 5, 10, 15, 20 years? And a lot of that information is still being worked through and put together. But I envision something like that for us here, to having a master plan, a plan that gives us direction for the next bit. For our facility right here that we're at right now, for the Robinson Forest, for the Stewart Farm. The agents and the district directors are going to have a big say in that. The agents put together a white paper that has lots of good information about what their thoughts are about what should be coming out of RCARS. And so that's a starting point, but I think we've got to go further than that. I think we've got to bring in other stakeholders. We've got to bring in local community leaders. We've got to bring in farmers. We've got to bring in staff. We've got to bring in people that work here in the facility, foresters, all kinds of folks to get us a master plan. So that's something that I think we need to work forward to or work toward and make that a reality to give us direction. Some of the ongoing work here, I'll just touch on a little bit of this. This is not all-inclusive. I'm sure that I'm leaving some things out. Within the Plant and Soil Science Department, we have a grazing study up at the Van Boeven Wildlife Management Area there on some reclaimed mine land. A great study that we're working with the University of Tennessee on. Dr. Ditch and Dr. Ray Smith were very instrumental in putting that together, and our hope is to continue that again this year. We've had our forage variety trials to complement the ones in Lexington and Princeton are ongoing. My hope is, this is a little forward thinking here, but I want to do a cutting height study with some of our variety trial species that we've got out of there. We've done some TEP work here, along with some demonstration plots on some county agents, farms, and so forth. Dr. Pfeiffer has done some sorghum work here. We have demonstration plots not only here on our campus, but also in the surrounding counties. One of the great things that we have that we've sponsored and continue to sponsor is the East Kentucky Hay Contest. We're going to do that again this year, ongoing for many, many years now. Dr. Ditch was instrumental in getting that started, and it puts a real focus to have our agents and producers think about how important forages are when they're raising their cattle or their horses or sheep and goats and that type of thing. And a couple of newer things going to come along this year. Dr. Williams, whom you heard from yesterday, said he was going to put a hemp demonstration plot here, and we're going to put that in one of our tours for our Mountain Ag Week. And then Dr. Tim Phillips is also going to be putting out a chia demonstration here this year. So lots of things going on within the Plant and Soil Science Department. Forestry, can't talk enough about this. You know, tremendous laboratory that we have at the forest, ongoing research, lots of papers being generated for that. We're doing some classic or very good water monitoring work up there. We have some of the cleanest water coming out of the watershed up there in all of the country. I look at the forest as a giant classroom. And by giant, I mean 15,000 acres. When I was talking to the committee this morning, how many other land grant institutions have that type of laboratory space, if you will, for hardwood trees? We've just started a new tree identification plot right out here by the Wood Center. The Breathitt County Extension Office is very instrumental in that. We're going to be planting some trees so that when students come or people come to the Wood Center, that they can actually take them out from there, walk a short distance, and identify trees, species that they might be working with within the Wood Center. The Wood Center itself, tremendous classroom, working facility where we can generate items for sale, we can use it as a classroom and those type of things. We want to continue to work with industry. Bobby Amron does a great job with that within forestry. Logging and coal, we're doing some of that. We're not mining any coal. I did mention that because sometimes you'll see that in the news. I was talking to someone the other day about doing my program tonight or today, and I mentioned coal, and they said, well, the university has a great reserve of coal under the Robinson Forest. Why don't they just mine that for money? I said, I don't think I want to bring that up. They said, well, if you don't want the job, bring that up. So I'm not bringing it up, but we want to just be aware of that. And then we do have a technical committee that helps with the forest and the things that go on there. So just a tremendous opportunity, lots going on, but again, a lot more that can be done in the future. Horticulture. Sean Wright, Dr. Sean Wright is doing a great job with that. A lot of the things that are going on there. Sean just did a ginseng seminar earlier this week. I didn't put that on there. Lots of work that keeps this place going. When we look at this, I think this really has a great deal of potential for Eastern Kentucky because we have small farms here. We're not like Western Kentucky where we have thousands and thousands of acres where we can go out and plant corn and beans. We have small acreages. And then what are some of the ways we can help them to grow fruits and vegetables to A, provide them better food, get those foods to the farmers markets, our local vendors or stores that can use that. So a lot of potential there. Again, this is not all inclusive, but just a lot of good work going on in horticulture. I know Sean said he's going to do a bee program for us for our Mountain Monday program later on this year, so good stuff going on there. So that's, again, that wasn't meant to be inclusive, but I wanted to kind of segue now into some of the focus that the college puts. And as you all know, the college has 3 phases or 3 departments or 3 programs or sections. I'm not sure how you want to put it, but we have education, we have research, and we have extension. And so when we look at education and how it fits into RCARS, I think one of the first things we have to talk about is our Robinson Scholars Program we have here. A tremendously good program that lets high school students know that they have an opportunity to get a college education. And not only a college education, but a very, very good college education. So it's an extremely good program, and it's certainly something we want to continue. What about having some regular classes here when we talk about education? We've got a great facility here with this auditorium. We have the Wood Center. Are there ways that we could work with maybe Hazard Community Technical College and the college to have some kind of distance learning here? You know, can we better utilize, get more utilization out of the auditorium and what we have here to focus more on education? When I first started working here and worked with Dr. Ditch, he told me and showed me a paper that said that the graduation rate for Breathitt County was less than 60%. And so I don't know that I can change that, but for those students that want to come back and get a GED and go on and once they find that they need that education, is there some way we can help that with some GED classes here or something like that? I mentioned Hazard Community Technical College. Maybe we can have some basic nursing classes here or something like that. I don't know that any of these is the answer, but I want to think outside the box, and I want to think, how can we lift that education up through RCARS? And so, again, just a few thoughts. Who knows? The sky's the limit on that. When we look at research, you see all the emblems there, and I want to thank Krista for doing that. She's very helpful in getting the logos for some of the departments that have or should be here working, and certainly some of them already are. Forestry, obviously, horticulture, plant and soil sciences, but we need to have entomology involved. We need folks here working on ag economics, on how we can better get our economy going here and so forth. We work with biosystems and ag engineering. I mentioned earlier about the white paper that the agents had done. One of their main concerns was to have a forage livestock specialist here to work with small ruminants and cattle in eastern Kentucky. So maybe we could have someone like that here and so forth. Ag education. We talked a little bit about education things. Maybe there's something we can do to work with ag ed to bring them in and get more of a presence here with them. So again, the potential is unlimited with research. Now we have a limited number of acres here on this facility, but when we get to the forest and so forth, we have unlimited capabilities. And then extension. We do a good job with extension. We really do. That's where I'm most familiar and where I've done most of my work. And our main job is to get this research that we do within the college out to our clientele, farmers, forestry folks, gardeners, that type of thing. The work doesn't stop. As I mentioned to you earlier, I got my master's a couple of years ago, and one of the things that I learned, maybe the most important thing that I learned in doing that, was that when you create a hypothesis and then you do your research to either prove or disprove your hypothesis, in doing so, you create 20 other questions or 20 other hypotheses that need to be worked on. Okay? So when I say more work to do, the mark just keeps moving. If we accomplish one thing, then the mark moves to something else, and that's always going to be the case. With extension, my thought, we've got a couple of 3 fine arts agents in eastern Kentucky. How about having one right here? Okay? The people of eastern Kentucky have a very proud heritage. They have a very unique, beautiful culture. How do we bring that? How do we lift that up? How do we let them know that what they've got is unique and so special? And again, work more closely with agents. I'm guilty of not doing probably as good a job with that as I could. But again, I do have a good rapport with the agents. I think I've worked with many of the agents in this area doing programs and working on demonstration plots and all like that. So always excited about working with them and want to do that on a better basis. Now, communications. We've got to tell our story. In agriculture, in all of agriculture, not just RCARS, not just the university or the college, but in all of agriculture, we do a poor job of telling our story. And we hear all these things in the media about how farmers are destroying this, or genetically modified crops are destroying that. And we have little to no rebuttal. And so we do a very poor job of telling our story. So we've got to do a better job of doing that. These are some of the ways we can do it: Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, Instagram. Lots of tools out there to do that with. And social media is one of the ways we have to focus on that. Now, these aren't the only ones, mind you. There are many others, but we don't want to get caught up in too many. But I think these are the important ones that we could kind of focus on. YouTube videos. Great teaching tool. We need to have a YouTube channel for right here. I know we've got some videos, but I want a dedicated channel and all like this. This one right here, Mountain Monday, that's probably our greatest communication tool that we've got right now. It's a monthly program. Again, Dr. Ditch was very instrumental in putting this together, where we have a program here every month. Josh Mullins is there taping it. We're getting that up. By all means, this has to continue. And we need to get it up, we need to get it out there, and we need to tell our story. And I don't say that in a critical way, because as I said, all of agriculture is that way. I work with, I mentioned the American Forage and Grassland Council. We're working very hard to have National Forage Week, where we put an emphasis on forages and what forages generate in terms of meat and milk and ice cream and all those kind of things. So how do we do that? How do we create better and better communication? I was talking with the committee earlier this morning, and we talked about internet access to Eastern Kentucky and how hopefully that's going to continue to get better and better, and to make these things more and more available to everyone. So communications is absolutely is paramount. I want to talk a little bit about some of our outreach programs that we're currently involved with and so forth. Grow Appalachia is a program that some of you may have heard of. Started several years ago, trying to get local gardens. It's here in Kentucky, West Virginia, Tennessee, and so forth. But anyway, it's a program designed to help families start a garden and do that. And so this year, we're going to have 32 first-year families, 22 second-year families, 2 UDAT. 56 families that are going to be impacted by this program in Breathitt County. And so, to me, that's tremendous. Just an example of some outreach that we can work with here to help folks do a better job and create a better standard of living for them here in Eastern Kentucky. So, great program there. The Farmers Market, which is just across the road. When I accepted the interim chair, or the interim director chair here at RCARS, I was not aware that in doing so I was going to be the chairman of the Farmers Market. David didn't tell me that. I'm glad to do it, but you didn't tell me that. But again, another great program, another good outreach program where we're touching folks within the county. We've got a program with senior vouchers where folks can send in for vouchers and then actually cash them in to get fresh fruit and vegetables over at the Farmers Market. A tremendously good program. Martha Yount was talking to me the other day about a grant possibility with the Farmers Market Promotion Program with USDA, to where we might be able to, again, depending, we would compete with other groups, maybe get a $50,000 grant or something to help promote and grow the farmers market here in Breathitt County. Our camp, Robinson Forest Camp, boy, the potential there is just phenomenal. The research that can be done, the classes that can be held. We're going to be having a Mountain Monday program that's going to be on Saturday next month in April. Dr. Tim Phillips is going to come down and do a wildfire walk through the forest. So we'll bring some people in like that, some retreats there. Those are things, there are possibilities. Again, this is not all-inclusive. There's other things that can be done there. And that's not all win-win. You know, if you increase traffic and all like that, lots of things have to balance out. But just, I'm trying to make the point of having a lot of potential for the forest. It's just absolutely phenomenal there. Another outreach program, Shaping Our Appalachian Regions. Some of you may have heard of this. It's a program put together, some federal money. Governor Beshear, when he was in office, was very instrumental in this. At first, there was maybe a little lack of focus on agriculture. But Daniel Wilson is on that committee now, District 2 director here within the extension of the college. So we're very fortunate to have Daniel on that. But I think we can have a lot of input to programs like this about how agriculture can play a role in lifting the economic outlook for everyone in Eastern Kentucky. And I think about programs like this, and I think about this, the tobacco program. And there used to be a little tobacco grown in eastern Kentucky, not much, but when I was growing up, tobacco was the #1 cash crop in Kentucky. Tobacco put more people through college, it bought more Christmas presents, it paid more farm mortgages than any program. And when the tobacco program went out, everybody was wringing their hand, what's going to happen to farmers in Kentucky without the tobacco program? Everybody, the farmers are all going to go broke, there's not going to be any farms, what are we going to do? Well, one of the few things that state government and or federal government did is said, we're going to make the tobacco companies pay a bunch of money, and we're going to channel some of that money into agriculture. And so the Ag Development Board and the Governor's Office for Ag Policy and those kind of things took those dollars and channeled them back into agriculture, and it's been a great success. Okay, farmers haven't gone out of business. Farm ag receipts are as high as they've ever been. So that was a good thing. Here in eastern Kentucky, we're looking at the decline in coal production and the loss of jobs there. And so in the paper the other day, in the election paper, they were talking about this power group, Partnerships for Opportunity, Workforce and Economic Revitalization. There was just another article in the day's paper about a program like this. So there's some funds out there that we need to tap into to help our farmers, our foresters, our people that are trying to do good things here in eastern Kentucky. So I just kind of wanted to make that comparison. Between, everybody thought that the end of tobacco was going to be the end of the Kentucky farmer, and it wasn't. So as coal diminishes, that's not going to be the end of the eastern Kentucky farmer. But how can we help them and lift them up? All right, programs like this can certainly do that. We've talked a little bit about this already, or maybe what some of the new programs would be, working with education, having an education center for distance learning within the college or within the university where students could come and get some biology courses or chemistry courses or just some general ag courses and that type of thing. Ag and trade classes, we've got this wood center up here that is a phenomenal tool. How can we better utilize that? Is there a balance that we can strike between using it as an education center and using it as a facility to generate cutting boards and grazing sticks and garden sticks and those kind of things? Is there a way to do that? And then a distribution center. Is there any opportunity for us, being the face of the college and university here in eastern Kentucky, is there a chance for us to be some kind of a distribution center to be better at channeling things out from the university and the college? So again, just some thoughts about things that may lay in the future for RCARS. Nothing written in stone or anything like that, but just some ideas. You say, Tom, well, that's great. What about money? What are you going to do for money? Lots of opportunities here as well. I mentioned to you, I grew up in Washington County. I'm the oldest of 8 children. And we grew up on a family farm and all, and we made do with what we had until we could do better. And I know here at RCARS, a lot of times that's what we have to do. We have to make do, we can do better. But the university and our college support is always going to be the backbone for our funding here at RCARS. We do have opportunities for grants. I would hope that if, as director, we would train someone to look at that and be able to write some grants and maybe get some funding in that way. Research collaborations. I mentioned our work with the University of Tennessee on the bamboo and grazing project. That brought in significant dollars, and so work like that is something that we certainly want to continue to look at and bring in, help bring in dollars and research here. Public support through the college. Now that's a little misleading. It should say public support / or dash or something like that. I don't have any problem in seeing the Hal Rogers Education and Life Center right over here where these 2 houses were. Okay? If Hal Rogers wants to give us $10 million to building the Education and Life Center, I don't see any problem in putting it right there where those 2 houses were that we tore down. Now, we've got to go through the college to do that, okay? But I'm not opposed to asking for something like that. all right? We hear about all these things, and I can't sit here and tell you that I have any one thing in mind, but is there some way we can get some public support? And again, I think of Hal Rogers, he's done certainly a lot for Eastern Kentucky. And then fees, we charge fees for the items that we produce at the Wood Center. We charge fees for folks that come to the Robinson Forest Camp and are up there. We charge fees to use the auditorium here. Do we need to restructure that? Do we need to increase those? Do we need to expand those? You're not going to get a tremendous amount of funding out of that, but it is something that can be part of the bottom line, so to speak. So funding, as always, will always continue to be very, very important. Civic engagement, and we're getting kind of to wrap things up here. Here we are, and we want to be a focus for the college and the university, but we've got to be a good neighbor. We've got to work with local governments. We've got to be involved with local community activities. We've got to provide leadership, and by leadership, I don't necessarily mean we have to institute all these new programs, but we have to be there to give advice. We have to be there to listen and give input when needed. But basically what it comes down to is we need to be a good neighbor. And I think we do that with the utilization we have of the auditorium and other things, the farmer's market, working with folks with the forest and ATV trails. I'm thinking about Chris over there, the work that he's doing there. So we want to be a good neighbor. We want to be involved civically with the local community and then the surrounding communities. Again, I go back to that circle that I showed you earlier. The closer the counties are, the more involved we'll be. The further out, probably the less involved. But at the end of the day, we just want to be a good neighbor. And that comes up to people, and I saved this one for last, because I think this is the most important. My family. As I mentioned, I'm the oldest of 8. I've been very fortunate to be married to my wife for almost 36 years now. I have 3 grown children, and they're very, very important to me. Very important. And they're what keep me going. They're my rock and foundation, if you will, and they're, quite honestly, the most important people in my life. RCARS family. I've had the opportunity to work here now for 4.5, about 5 years, the last 3 months as director, and I truly consider the people that work here as family. They're a very tight-knit group, a very hard-working group, and as I told the committee, I think the university and the college and even the whole university doesn't get any better bang for their buck than they do from the people that work here at RCARS. A tremendous group of people that work here. Our Eastern Kentucky family. Those people that we have outreach to, that we touch, they're phenomenal. The heritage and culture of this area is absolutely phenomenal. The music and so forth, it's just really heartwarming and will lift you up. It really will. So just a great family there. And I think we have a landmark opportunity here. Now most of you, it's hard to see, I should have gotten a better picture, but right here in the right-hand corner, this is the old Blue Bridge. We've seen that in all these slides. But instead of the nice concrete bridge that you see coming out, or that you came over today, this is what was there from what, the 50s, David, up until a couple of years ago. And anytime you were coming to Quicksand or RCARS from Lexington or wherever, the directions were go to Jackson, stay on Highway 15 South, and you're coming off the hill, look for the Blue Bridge on the right. And the Blue Bridge was the landmark to get here. And so I'm debating on whether we should paint the new bridge blue or not. I don't think that's probably a good idea. But I do think that we have the opportunity to make this place a landmark institution within Eastern Kentucky. And it's going to take a concerted effort on a lot of folks' part, but I think we have that opportunity to do that. And last, I want to leave you with this before we get into questions. I mentioned this publication a little bit earlier, the Robinson Substation, A Short History. This was actually done in 1976. And I wanted to leave you, before we wrap this up, with just the epilogue in the very back. I think it's very, very poignant. It says, little remains in Quicksand as a reminder of its days of yesteryear. Gone are the scars of the extractive industry, that ravished the hills of great trees and churned the bottomlands into seas of mud. A few old buildings still stand as mementos of the town's glory as a sawmill town, but fortunately the change has been all for the better. As has been the fate of so many boom towns in the nation's history, quicksand did not die. Neither did it sink into abject decay. Instead, where the flames of the boilers used to grow red as the sun went down, there is now an eye-pleasing stretch of bottomland of tall grasses arranged in neat rows and waving in the wind. The fragrant aroma of multiflora roses that provide food and shelter for wildlife and flowering crabapple trees that add their beauty to the idyllic scene. Experimental vegetable and field plots have replaced the lumber stacks and unsightly ash piles. Neat homes with well-manicured lawns, shade trees, pretty flowers, and flowering shrubs have replaced the company-built shacks for workers. A fine new brick office building sits on the riverbank above where the poor man and his horse sank into the quicksand. And a pagoda-like building housing the wood center completes the picture. As a lumber town, quicksand is no more, but because of Robinson Substation, it is far from a place that lives only with memories of past glories. Rather, it looks to the future with anticipation of greater glories that come from serving the people. Its days are tranquil and its nights are peaceful. Whippoorwills and little screech owls still call from the surrounding hills at dusk, and robins, once excluded because of the lumber stacks, have returned by the thousands to pull worms from the grassy bottoms. Sunshine is the little town's portion. It has, in its time, achieved auspicious eminence, and its tale is yet far from being fully told. I think that's very good, and I think that kind of echoes the sentiment that I have. And I thank you for this opportunity, and I'll be happy to take any questions that you might have. You said 40 to 45 minutes.
I have some questions from someone
Yes,
else. How will being 80% administration affect your current research and work?
We discussed that earlier this morning. I do think that this position does require, if it's not full-time in terms of how your time is allocated within the system, it is full-time right here, okay? We might be doing a meeting in one of the counties or doing a demonstration plot as extension work, but your mind never strays from what this is. And so from a management standpoint and all, it's 100%. But how you divide your time up, I think an 80-20 appointment is probably pretty applicable to what needs to be done and the work that needs to be overseen here, and then the work we need to do out in the counties and doing county meetings and that type of thing.
I have another question. Do you plan on living close? If not, how do you plan on handling emergency situations that arise?
Great question. I plan to be on the job every day. And I plan to be here or wherever the job needs me to be at a particular day. And in terms of responding to emergencies, I think that's, you have a system in place. With technology nowadays, we can be in communication with most anybody in short notice. I do live in Lexington. I'm 90 minutes away at the most. But you can work through that with having folks on call, and we've got a really good team here, very responsible individuals. So I think that's very doable, just as long as we keep a plan in place as to who might be on call or those type of things.
Well, Tom, I'll ask you a question. You mentioned you went from a job where you had an unlimited budget to another job where you had no budget. Hopefully we're somewhere in between there. and we talked about this morning a little bit, but what do you see the biggest infrastructure needs are here? If we wanted to make more investments?
Well, the question is, what would the biggest priorities be for infrastructure? We have a very old campus here, and our buildings are old, and so we have lots of needs. I've asked some of the staff here to give me ideas on what their thoughts are in terms of big ticket items, of replacements and that kind of thing. So I would rely on that, but we have, I think of the Wood Center, for instance, and some of the problems we have out there with our heating and so forth, certainly a big ticket item. Again, how we utilize that center is going to predicate how soon maybe that gets taken care of and so forth. David did quite a bit in terms of getting lots of things done, heating and air and those kind of things. So I don't see us tearing buildings down and putting up new ones and all like that, but keeping things going. Again, we talked about maybe heating and air conditioning in the program building. I go back to the Wood Center, things like that. Work at the forest, some of the cabins up there, and the roads. You know, so there are quite a few things, but the resilience of the staff here and the ability to make things go as best we can is pretty darn special. Yes, sir.
You talked about, you know, a lot of, you had that thing of all the different colleges and forage and all the different things. Do you see some of those sort of coming to the top that you see, not necessarily more important, but that would affect the local area as far as, you know, what the center provides and helping local people, that type of thing, any of those?
Well, yeah, that's a great question. The question is, you know, do we see anything that could rise to the top or help maybe with the local economy and that kind of thing? I think they're all very, very important. And when I look at, it's hard for me to place one over the other. I think they're all equally important. And I think we have opportunities to bring more folks into that. And the sky is the limit. What we can accomplish here, but to lift those folks up with educating them, getting better food on their table, the FNET programs, all those kind of things, Robinson Scholar, forestry, I mean, the list is just endless. And I think they're all equally important. I just hate to put one over the other. I just want a rising tide lifts all ships. And so that would be my goal.
And another question, the role, you know, we talked about a lot of the area and things. Do you see some things or things that the center has done or would do more as far as economic development in the area, not leading that, but, you know, in support of, you know, whatever for Eastern Kentucky, obviously with the loss of coal jobs and that type of thing?
Well, I think that being at the table is one of the most important things. And having a voice with some of these, we talked about SOAR, we talked about power, there's the enterprise zones, a lot of those things are out there. We can't do all those things, but I think we need to have a voice in all of those, whether it comes from the director or whether it maybe comes from individual folks in a particular department, whether it's forestry or horticulture or something like that. We have to be a voice at the table. And then how do we work with them through the center to raise everybody up? So yeah, I want to be at the table. Yes, sir.
This is more of a specific question because I don't know, but Robinson Center as a place and interacting more in the community. So just an example of this, use of this auditorium. Is it primarily Breathitt County, or does the use of this auditorium extend to that 60-mile radius? So is Robinson Center as a place an attraction, or does it have to be more of an outreach, a center for outreach?
Well, that's a good question. Primarily, I would rely on Jack and some of the others, but primarily it's used by Breathitt County folks. But that does not mean that the surrounding counties, or again, you go out to that circle, that can utilize it. Agents utilize it from the different counties to have meetings here. Again, a lot of our Mountain Monday programs, which are advertised in District 1 and District 2, we get a lot of folks come in from outside counties there. We think about the communication as we do a better job of that, and maybe doing stuff on Twitter and Instagram, and working more with Facebook and YouTube and those kind of things, and letting them know some of the programs that are going on here, and then maybe it stirs them to say, oh, well, they had a good crowd there. What if we had one of our meetings there? So, but it's not just for Breathitt County. It's for Eastern Kentucky because, again, this is RCARS and part of the UK. It's not just Breathitt County, but a lot of the folks that utilize it are from Breathitt County. Yes, sir.
Tom, having functioned in the interim director role, I think at this point, you've gotten a little better grasp on what the position is and sort of is not. And at this point, there's a lot of great things that RCARS does. Have you seen anything that, as new director, that you would change as far as future direction, or would you pretty much stay the current course with most all? I mean, from top to bottom, anything that, is there anything that Tom Keene would like to do differently as new director?
Chris asked the question about having been director or interim director for the last 2 or 3 months. Is there something I would change or do different, or would we stay the course or whatever? First of all, after having been the interim director for 3 months, you might ask the question, why do you want to be director? Okay. But I look at it, I was telling the committee again, I hate to go back to that, but I look at it as a baseball team. I love baseball. I didn't mention that, but we come from a baseball family. But if you're a team and you're batting and you come up to bat, you have 9 players on the team. If you watch, each batter will come up to the plate, and each batter will have a different stance. All right, some will be back in the box, some will be up in the box, some will hold their bat up high, some will hold it low. But their goal is the same, to get a hit or hit a home run or whatever. I mean, everybody's goal is the same. And so my ultimate goal is to see this place be the landmark facility that it can be for the college and university. I don't see a lot of tremendous changes. For me personally, one of the things that I might institute would be like the weekly staff meetings, that kind of thing. I want to have a general calendar where there's so much that goes on here. This place is always busy. But in all honesty, even being the interim director, I don't know everything that's going on here. And so I know that if I don't, then some of the other people here don't as well. So I want to have open those lines up a little bit and all like that. But I'll tell you what, the team that we've got here and the direction that they're going is pretty good. We can do some things better, but that's always the case. I mean, even before I was involved with this, could I do things better? You bet. And so I don't see, again, I talked about some of the things about utilizing things more and all like that, but that comes with time and money. So I can't see any great changes, but we talk about budget cuts. I know that's going to be one of the things that whoever the new director is going to have to address, and depending on what comes out of the legislature. The easiest way to take care of budget cuts is to cut people. But to me, that would be the last thing to do for this facility, because we get, everyone here, we get so much bang for our buck for the people that work here. To me, that would be the last thing I'd want to look at. I want to look at something else. So, again, just lifting this facility up and doing everything we can. I mean, if we've got a big pot of money, $50 million fell out of the sky, yeah, we can change a lot of things. We build, we do this, we do that. But staying the course and being that focus for UK and the college are primary in my mind. Yes, sir.
You mentioned working with HCTC. I know in the past, I was involved with the joint forestry program that we had through UK and Hazard. Do you envision any kind of programs, maybe similar to that, maybe not to that extent, maybe not a whole program, but maybe some courses that could be offered jointly here? Do you see any direction that we could go with that?
Yeah, in all candor, I've not spoken to anyone there, and the last thing I would want to do is step on anyone's toes. I don't want to, and that's why it would have to be through the college and all like that. But having the opportunity to be here in Quicksand and Jackson and Breathitt County, to work with them, to work with UK, is there some kind of a combination? Is there a joint, I don't want to use the word joint venture, I don't like that, but is there some type of cohesiveness or something we can put together to have basic classes here that doesn't, the last thing, if you're a community technical college, you don't want to lose a bunch of students. Your colleges are just like businesses. You want as many students, as you can get. So we have to be careful not to tread where we shouldn't be, but yet if it's an opportunity for them and it's an opportunity for the college to have something here, then by all means we want to explore that and offer that. Well, and it could be any number of things. I just think about nursing, for instance. If you look on the UK website for jobs, the last time I looked, probably a couple months ago, it wasn't for myself. But of the 600 jobs on it, probably 350 were nursing jobs. So is there any way we can help with in that? We talked about GED, but folks that get out of school and think they don't need that, and all of a sudden they get out and say, you know what, I probably do need, at least a high school education. Well, is there a way we can help with that? So, man, it's wide open there as far as I can tell. But we just have to be careful. The last thing I want to do is say, oh, great, we're going to have some general ag courses or beginning forestry course here, and have Hazard get all upset. And I want them to be, we want to be team players.
I have one more.
Yes, ma'am.
Agents mentioned the need for a livestock position. 2012 Ag Census indicates that Breathitt, Owsley, Knott, and Perry counties combined, there are 125 cattle farms. In light of budget challenges, how would you approach their request and justify the need for this position?
That's a great question, and I'd have to go back to Dr. Bennett and the department chairs on that. Many years ago, we had a forage specialist on site in Dr. David Ditch, and he was not the director. And so he transitioned into that director role, which left a void in that forage livestock interface thing. And I have tried to fill that gap somewhat, but have not been able to repeat what he did. But in the same instance, we would need to talk to the Animal and Food Science Department and the Plant and Soil Science Department and Dr. Bennett and see if we can overcome those challenges to have a PhD, a postdoc, or somebody in that position that can do research and meetings and work with these farmers and serve them better. But I'm afraid with budget cuts and all like that's going to be a constraint. But we still need to address it whether it happens or not.
Any other questions for Tom? Okay, well, let's thank Tom for a seminar today. And again, thank you all for coming. And again, we really would like your feedback and comments about the candidates today, or just any comments or suggestions about the future of RCARS, your priorities, or anything that you think you would like to share with us. We'd appreciate that very much. You can send your comments to me directly at rick.bennett@uky.edu. You can call me. Jackie's got my telephone number. Bob House is the chair of our search committee. You can send comments to Bob, call, or any way you want to communicate. I want to thank Jackie for helping us organize and plan things here this week. and for Bob and Todd Pfeiffer and Red Baker for serving on the search committee, and for Neva for putting on a great lunch for us. So,
And I had a lot of help. I had a lot of help.
and Jackie had a lot of help, I'm sure. It is a team effort. So again, thanks for coming, and stick around for lunch.
An idea of what's the timeline, are you looking to fill the position in the next?
I think we'll get together and meet over the probably next week or so. So as soon as you want to provide some comments and get them together, the sooner the better. And we don't have a deadline, but we'd like to move along pretty quickly.
And I would certainly encourage that everyone do that. I just echo what Dr. Bennett said. Certainly for the staff and all here, any concerns, questions, anything like that, now's the time to really speak up. And I know that the committee will keep everything quiet. I mean, it'll be very concealed. You won't have to worry about anything in that. But seriously, if you have any questions or comments, good or bad, please raise them. Now's the chance. And so I would just encourage everyone to do that. Any other questions? I'm gonna get another bottle of water.